Hey, what's up, guys? It is Tom and Scott from BadCuzDad, and we're back with another Amorphous Jedi live show.
Yes,
The
sir.
Amorphous Jedi coming back at you, and um, I don't know. Bad Batch was really good this week, and
I loved it. I really did.
sorry, I'm getting a bad echo.
It's good. Are you good?
Give me a second. Yep, I did too. Bad Batch. Sorry, we're back, guys. Little technical
Yep.
difficulties there. Man, what an awesome show this week. And we're going to get into it. A little bit of a departure from what we had seen the week before. So, super awesome. It was really cool. So, Scott, obviously, you watched Bad Batch
I
because you
did.
did a breakdown that was freaking sick. Super good once again. What else
Oh,
you been
thank
up to
you.
this week? You
Thank
been
you.
watching shows or anything like that?
God,
Games? I
what
think you're
have I been
muted.
doing this
You're
week?
muted.
No, I'm not. I'm here.
Right.
Can you hear me?
Oh, I got you. Yeah, I got you.
All
Go
right.
for it.
Yeah. Shoot, what have I been doing this week? Other than my normal dad stuff and normal psychological stuff, not too much. I haven't gamed at all, honestly. And other than watching the Bad Batch and some Brooklyn Nine-Nine with my wife, I haven't been doing too much.
Yeah, I did watch, like I said, obviously the Bad Batch a few times getting ready for this. And man, it was a good episode. I think some people had some differing opinions out there, but I thought it was really good. Um, I think I played maybe one or two nights of Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Hmm.
Um, Still doing PvP in that game. They have a PvP track that I'm on, trying to get a bunch of cosmetic rewards, cool stuff, that I want to get in game. So I've done that a little bit, and then
I have to
of
say, man,
course, yeah.
not to cut you off here, I've been
All right, go.
having the itch to jump on with you there. Uh, like, I'm ready to turn on the ignition, but there's just no gas in the tank right now. That's kind of
Yeah.
how I feel. I really have had that desire to play recently, and man,
Mm,
I feel like it's on the horizon. I just
yeah.
can't get over the hump yet.
I got you. Well, when you're ready, I'm about to drop a PvP guide for my class that that
Right?
you should watch. It's gonna help you out. And
I'm
so
not gonna watch.
I know. Um, and you're still gonna drop crazy numbers. It's all good. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been having fun in that game. What else have I been up to? Oh, I think the Mando trailer dropped since last time
Yep.
we met,
You're
right?
right. Hmm.
What'd you think of
You're right.
that?
I thought it was enough of a tease. Nothing groundbreaking, so to speak. I think the coolest element of that we got to see was another. Looks like we're getting another scene of the Jedi Temple during the ransacking of it
Yes,
by
that
both
looked
First and
awesome.
Anakin. So more Grogu backstory essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously he was there. How he got out, maybe we'll get to see this time. But I
Yeah,
love that they're still continuing the trajectory of bringing all these shows together in some
yeah,
aspect.
yeah, totally. I don't know. Yeah, I'm wondering how. I mean, how many seasons does Mandalorian have? Right? Like, uh, what's the guy's name again? The lead character.
Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, Pedro Pascal. Like,
Yeah,
we're talking about like an A-lister. Like, how
he
many
is now.
more
Yeah.
seasons is he gonna
Oh, that's what I
get
did
towards?
watch. The
Last of
Last of
Us?
Us. Yeah, I watched the
Did
first
you?
episode.
Okay.
Phenomenal show. Yeah.
Was it good?
Um, I loved it. Yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
it's for me after The Walking Dead. So let me see how to phrase this. 28
Okay, wait,
days
wait, wait,
later.
wait, 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 wait,
All right.
wait. I've
All right.
never played Last of Us, so
Okay.
kind of like what? Like I've seen Walking Dead. I know
Yeah.
you just referenced it. Is that the style that the show is in, or is it follow like
E-
the style of the game that I wouldn't really know what's going on
Well,
if I jumped into the show?
the game's a story-driven game. It's kind of what I classify when I'm talking about those kind of games is
Hmm.
like a cinematic gaming experience. It's
Okay.
almost like you're in a story and it is primarily story driven, but then you have the game elements to it. So it's good because it's a different take on the zombie genre, like The Walking Dead, and pretty much every zombie movie aside from something like 28 Days Later has been the dead rising after they die because of some type of virus. Whereas The Last of
Yeah.
Us is actually based on a pretty realistic premise of cordyceps and fungi evolving to actually control people's mind. It does it. Some cordyceps can do that to insects already. So it's a believable premise, and it
It's
has the
like
vibe
the
of,
happening.
yeah, in a way,
The
yeah,
one with Mark Wahlberg.
where the pollen kind of, yeah, makes
Yeah.
them, yeah, it's
Yeah.
got a
Okay.
similar premise. So,
Hmm.
anyways, it seems so far that it's true to the game. The acting was phenomenal, the cinematography was great, and I think it
Yeah.
started off with a pretty strong origin and beginning. So I have high hopes for it. Anyways,
Okay.
Pedro Pascal, great actor, totally killing it right now.
Yeah. How long do you think the Mando has, given his status? I mean, he probably doesn't want to do it forever. Are they going 4 seasons, 5 seasons? Because they're
I
gonna have
would,
to ramp
yeah,
things up. It looks like they are ramping things up. Like I'm going to
yeah.
Mandalore, and
I
all
don't
this
think
stuff.
we're gonna get any more than 5 or 6. I think that's a good amount for a show.
I think maybe even only 4, but I don't know what
Four
the over
spot,
under on
yeah.
that. You know, I think it depends on what happens this season, obviously.
Yeah, and where they go forward is for their entire series, like what they want to do as far as their
Yeah, I guess
cinematic
what do they
universe.
want to do with Grogu? What do they want to do with Din? We'll kind of. But yeah,
Hmm.
the Order 66 scene, if that is what I think it is, man, I'm super pumped for
Yeah,
that.
get to see more Hayden. Always
Yes,
fun.
totally. Cool. Well, before we get into the Bad Batch talk, I want to give everyone a little glimpse of the breakdown we did from last week with episode 4. You did an awesome job on the breakdown and Easter
Heck
eggs
yeah.
and all that analysis. So let's let everybody take a listen before we jump in. And you can, if you get a chance, go watch it this week and let me know what you think. But here
Yeah.
we go.
Hello there, and welcome back to another breakdown and analysis of the Bad Batch. I'm Scott from BadCuzDad, and today we're covering Season 2, Episode 4, Faster. And let me start off by saying, now this is pod racing. We begin the episode at the headquarters of our crew at Sid's place on the planet of Ord Mantell. Wrecker and Omega are having a rousing game of Djarik, made famous by 3PO playing Chewbacca in the Millennium Falcon in Episode 4, New Hope. Let the Wookiee win, right? Nah, Omega gets the best of Wrecker as Sid comes in with another task for the crew. Although Hunter and Echo are currently out busy with another mission, Sid says she needs to.
Dude, those are turning out really nice. I'm really enjoying our breakdowns.
Yeah, a little dorky, but hey, it's fun.
No, that's good. You got to have fun with it. Did you do anything different this approach to this episode, or are you kind of you making some changes from week to week in how you're approaching it?
You know what? I think I went a little more comical because the episode was just fun for me. So I had fun with it. And I think the
Yeah.
commentary, the breakdown is going to generally match the cadence and emotions of the episode. It's kind of the way I
Well,
approach it.
that's a good segue because really this episode, I saw a lot of chatter on it about people saying, "Oh, this is a filler episode." Some were saying it's not as good. Well, because episode 3 was like heavy emotion, right? Like
Yeah.
with Cody and with Crosshair and all their interactions, you know what I mean? It was a pretty heavy episode with lots of implications. And so they kind of pulled it back. And I think it was a really good call and obviously intentional because this episode was way lighter, way more fun. I had here filler, but fun.
It's a
But in
good
the
way to.
filler episode, you got some character development. I don't know. Did you kind of get that same feeling from the
I
episode?
So I think fillers serve a purpose, and that term might be a little condescending in some regard. A filler episode should fulfill a purpose in between, of course, the previous one and the next one. And I think sometimes when you're coming off a heavy episode, it's good to kind of just go a different route to give the viewer a chance to breathe a little bit, take in what happened last episode, and it just kind of breaks up the storytelling in a way that sometimes doesn't always work out, but sometimes in this episode, I think it did work out. It let us see another side of the clones and or the Bad Batch, and a little bit of Sid, a couple of side characters, and it's just to me it adds more depth to the storytelling, no matter how small or how inconsequential. It's still another piece of the puzzle to good storytelling. So, if fillers are great, I'm all on board for it.
Yeah, I'm obviously, you have something like Andor, which is like on level 10 the whole show, and it's good, but this is, a spinoff of the Clone Wars, right? And the Clone
Yep.
Wars has a lot of comedy and lighthearted moments. And so I think you have to have a mix on here, and I'm really glad they went with like a fun episode. I mean, Teo is hilarious.
It
The
was.
dude he
It
is
was
pretty
really
sassy.
well done.
Yeah. And
I was
so
laughing
yeah,
a few times, legitimately out loud. Like he was cracking me up. The little spectacle
Te-
spectator, and
Teo regrets nothing, like when he's going out.
yeah, it was just good. It was great to see them expand on the whole droid comic relief that they typically put in the movies, and we've always had great droids. Even BB-8 was cool,
Although I feel bad for Wrecker, like all the droids are stealing his comic relief role. Like what
or adding to it
poor
from a
Wrecker.
certain point of view.
What is Wrecker? What's going on with Wrecker, man? I keep waiting. Like we need something
He
more.
looked like
You
he
know what I
was
mean?
like had to poo this whole episode every time he looked
Just
at
like
him.
yeah, it's like eating from
Yeah,
the concession stand and stuff the whole time. So yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
But Tay was good. You're right. They keep the theme. The droids are the comic relief, so you can always count on that.
and just a
Um,
great callback to the Boonta Eve scene from episode one. Like, say what you will about the prequels and episode one, but that scene was awesome,
yeah, let's
especially
talk about that.
for its time.
Yeah, there were some Easter eggs and callbacks, kind of to,
Hmm.
episode one and whatever. So I don't know. What'd you think? I thought it was. I don't know. In our thumbnail for the breakdown, I obviously put a side by side shot of Tech
Yeah,
with little Annie, in his racing goggles, kind of a thing.
exactly.
And so
I
I don't
think it
know.
was great. From the announcer to the droids that were driving, I think of, I really think and look at Star Wars on such an in-depth level. So I'm always looking for those little Easter eggs and connections. So I remember in episode one when Anakin was like, I'm the only human that can do it, that he's the only one that can
Mm,
race. And here you have Tech now, who's a clone,
the only human in the
going
race.
against the only human, going against droids, and I thought that was a nice little touch. You had
Hmm.
you had the battle droid reprogrammed, you had the protocol droid reprogrammed, then you had the battle droid head on the protocol droid, like 3PO
Yeah.
got into in the crap, what was that planet called? Geonosian Arena from episode two.
Mm,
So just a lot of nice touches. As an older fan, it
yeah.
really kind of brought me back into that feeling I had when I first saw those. And I
Yeah.
think as storytellers, that's what you want.
Even Malegi's driver was kind of like a Sebulba like
Hmm.
esque personality. You know what I
Just
mean?
like kind of a little scummy gambling. It just stab
Dirt,
you in the
all yeah.
back. Yeah.
Anything goes on the track. You know what I mean? Kind of a thing.
Hmm.
So
What we're gonna do,
yeah,
what it takes to get the W.
yeah, pretty much. And so it was a nice callback. I got to
Hmm.
admit. And so again, they were keeping it lighthearted. I would say probably the person you get the most out of in this episode, even though there's maybe not as much screen time, I guess is probably Sid, because she's tied to this Malegi character. There's
Yeah.
obviously some sort of backstory there. Well, let's talk about Malegi.
Yeah.
What a good like antagonist, like bad guy.
Yeah.
I feel like even though there was no like action, in regards to him, his just the he was
A
well
good
thought out.
presence. A good presence on the story.
Yeah, I think so often in these, especially filler type episodes. I mean, I don't want to date us too much, but like going back to Smallville, you had your famous filler episodes, with these bad
Yeah.
guys that weren't very deep. Because usually in
Right.
these types of fillers, you get a bad guy who's like, I want to watch the world burn type of bad guy. Like there's no
it's just tacky.
depth to them. Right, but Malegi seems like a very interesting character. Like
Hmm.
his words seem very well thought out and wise.
Yeah,
Um,
he's
he,
got, like I mentioned at the end, he's got a code of honor, even though he is kind of a sketchy dude and runs probably an underground gambling stuff and is into crime, but he's got a code of honor, kind of like pirate code, I guess.
yeah. So well thought out. Him and Sid clearly have some sort of history
Right.
together, and Sid keeps, she has that scene where she's trying to say, I've changed. You would be surprised by me, and so I think they're setting up some sort of arc with Sid where maybe she has an option to betray or maybe help the Clone Force 99 in some way. And I think that's going to be her struggle, whether
Yeah.
she makes that call or she doesn't make that call.
Right.
And Malegi's warning them like, hey, this story is coming, to that, and so you're going to see she's not going to side with you in the end, And so they're trying to,
I think they're adding more to Sid than I
yeah,
expected. I just kind of saw her as a quest giver. That's all she was. She
right.
filled her role, but now that they're adding another layer there, I'll happily take it.
Yeah, and there you saw when Omega is pleading that hey, we have to save Sid. It affects Sid in a way, so she's not immune
Right.
to the actions of Omega and the other clones, and what's going on. And so I don't know. I just thought it was nice touches, and so I'm kind of
Yeah.
interested to see where the story goes with Sid, and in an extension of that with what was Wanda Sykes' character they introduced?
What
Um,
was her name? It
yeah, I don't
wasn't Tawny. Something with the T,
know.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
I forget right
It,
now.
but anyway, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think there's maybe that's the story with Sid and her, whether maybe she double crosses the clones and Sid has to make a choice between her friend and the clones or something else. I think is going to happen. But anyway, it was a nice touch. There was some, since it was a filler episode, it was nice to get some character development for, Sid, someone outside of the Clone Force. But uh, the other one that was kind of cool was obviously Tech, which is weird. I don't feel like he had many scenes where he has like important dialogue or anything like that, but it kind of continued this weird narrative, and I don't know if I understand it. Maybe you have a different approach to it, but they're
Okay.
pitting like the droids versus the clones kind of narrative. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the threads where this is leading and what is the origin and why they're trying to do this. Totally. What is your take on that
I,
dynamic? It seems like they keep bringing
yeah.
up in every
I think
episode.
it's a philosophical tool. Essentially, they're trying to show all the differences between the clones and their former enemy, the whole droid battalions, and now the Empire essentially phasing them out. I think it's showing that the clones are more than just clones. They all have their strengths and they even have their flaws, but ultimately there is a lot more to them. And it reminds me of the very first Clone Wars episode we ever got when the series came out, where Yoda went to a planet with like three or four clones or something, and they were in a cave, and it was just them fighting a whole battalion. And I remember the clones saying like, "We can only do so much. We're just clones." And Yoda basically said, "Clones you may be, but like the
Mm,
Force knows no different. They recognize you as individual creatures and beings, and you do have something to give. You're not just a number." And I always that always resonated with me from an emotional perspective. Like that's just really,
mm.
it's kind, it's poetic, and it's very philosophically strong. And I think that's kind of what they're trying to show here, is that there's so much more to these clones and what they can do now that they're no longer quote unquote useful.
Because maybe it seems like, well, obviously, the other big storyline that we've been seeing is the Empire is, it seems, trying to phase the clones out.
Yeah, that's
So
exactly what
in a
they're
way,
doing.
So in a way, the Empire almost sees the clones as droids, like disposable,
Yes.
right? Like
Yep.
they're not human. They're not, we don't owe anything to them.
Nope.
They're
They
like
were
a
merely
obviously.
they were pawns in Palpatine's game, just like the droids were.
And as Rampart showed in the last episode, they're just a number to him,
Hmm.
like refusing to call them by their name, or
Yeah.
acknowledge them. And so, yeah, so I think maybe the clones are trying to push back against that and say, hey, we're more than a
Right.
number. You know what I
Right.
mean? Kind of a deal. And so I can see I can see them bringing that up, and maybe
Hmm.
that's why they're continuing that droid versus clone narrative or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so man, it was a cool episode. Tech obviously different from the droid. He takes the path that no one wants to take. And that's not a analytical move, because that's like the wrong move to make. And so I
Hmm.
don't know. It was a cool episode. I thought it was the best shot of the episode, is from a direction standpoint, when he wins the race and it gives the shot of him behind him, like facing the crowd. Like that was like kind of gave me chills moment. You know what I mean?
It was like finally I'm being recognized for something.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of like a gladiator scene,
Hmm.
like when he won, and he's like looking at the crowd. I was like,
Yeah.
that was nice cinematography. It was nice work, and I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That was my thoughts on. I thought the episode was just fun. They needed to reel it back after that heavy emotional episode
Hmm.
they had. You know what I mean? And they just did a great job. So I was super pumped on that. I don't know anything else on the episode that stood out to you.
Not. I mean, the humor was just great. I was legitimately laughing quite a bit. So
Yeah.
I always appreciate good humor when it's done tastefully and it's the right time, right place. So I enjoyed that, and I just think so far this season is just knocking it out of the park, man.
Well, guys, if you haven't got a chance, like I said, our breakdown video you've seen playing in the background here, Scott just did a great job, knocked it out of the park with the episode 4 breakdown. So go check that out on the channel if you get a chance, especially
Yeah.
before the new episode comes out tomorrow.
Yep. You have my
But I
thanks.
kind of want to shift gears a little bit and get into some speculation about one of our favorite time periods in Star Wars, and where we think there's a lot of interesting stories to be told. But let me let Obi-Wan introduce this for us.
Sir, if you'll not be needing me, I'll put down for a while.
Sure, go ahead. What is it?
Father's lightsaber. This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight. Not as clumsy or random as a blaster. An elegant weapon for a more civilized age. For over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic. Before the Dark Times. Before the Empire.
So for 1,000 years, the Jedi Knights kept peace and order in the Old Republic. And so, straight from Obi-Wan, that's kind of what we wanted to talk about today a little bit as well, the Old Republic era. And
Yes.
we have a few stories from there already, but kind of, why would you be excited to see them, either through shows or movies, kind of explore this era and go down
Oh
this
man,
path?
so many reasons. But I would say the few big ones is number one. This is a gold mine for phenomenal storytelling. There's so much to explore. They're not restricted to the Skywalker saga or the current. I guess we could probably place that timeline within, I'd say, 100 years, maybe. The Galactic Republic and the Empire and stuff like that. And I think it allows us to also explore more of the Force, the origins of the Jedi, the origins of the battle between the Sith and Jedi. It's just there's just almost an infinite amount of stories that you could tell here. And clearly we've seen a little bit of Old Republic stuff in games and stories and books and things like that are some are still canon, some aren't. But it proves my point still that there's a lot of great stories just lying back there.
So it will.
You have Revan on the screen. He's one of the greatest Old Republic
Yeah, I was gonna
characters.
say let's start there. Is Revan the natural segue into the Old Republic? Because I hear this a lot,
Yeah.
right? Like, obviously, people love KOTOR, like all-time favorite, right? Even you,
Well
like that's
deserved,
probably
man.
one of your favorite
I
games ever.
still I still hold true that that is one of the best twists in gaming for sure, or
Okay.
storytelling for that matter. Yeah, fully. It's like one of those things that you just remember where you were, how old you were when you did it, and it was awesome.
Okay. Well, I guess here's why I want to bring Revan up is so um I heard this not on this, it wasn't my own thought. So there's a podcast called the Escape Podcast, which is like a Star Wars Old Republic
Yeah,
podcast, but I heard them talking about this. Kind of is is Revan like if they make him into a movie or a show, aren't they just gonna mess it up? Like it isn't your thought of Revan in your mind from the games like perfect? Are you not worried that it would be taken down a path where you're not happy with how they handle it like, as a fan?
I mean, therein lies the problem, right? It's like you want more content, more shows and movies, but at the same time, you're like, will this ruin my experience of it, my perception of it, my fondness of the character? And I think if Andor is any indication of where these shows could possibly go, that's when I'm on board for it because I know that in the hands of somebody like Dave Filoni or John Favreau, that somebody like Revan could be even more fleshed out and perhaps even have a better story told. And there's a lot of people who didn't play that game who are now obviously. I think I was, geez, probably 19 or 20 when that came out, maybe younger. Like there's still people who now are 20 years old that might have not have played it. They know the character because of the lore and how popular he is. But I think it's a great opportunity to tell that story. And I my prediction here every week I'm going to predict something. This is just how it's going to go because that's where the wheels start turning.
I'll start writing these down.
Yeah,
Let's see what happens.
Scott's prophecies. I think we have that Acolyte show coming out, which is I think they said it's about 150 to 100 years before the events of Episode 1. So I don't know if they're exploring Palpatine and
Is that High
and
Republic
Plagueis.
era or after that?
That's after. I'm not sure when the High Republic ends. It's about. I'd have to get that. I'm not just
Okay.
going to speak
Okay.
out of
Yeah,
my out of my
I don't
booty
know
here.
either. Okay.
But it's going to explore maybe a little bit of Palpatine, his master Plagueis, his master Tenebrae, and I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of trial ran old Jedi, old Sith, like referencing Revan, referencing Darth Bane, kind of throwing some names out there to see if it might bite. Maybe there's flashbacks, who knows? But I think with the Acolyte show coming, it's indicative that that is where some of these creative stories are going to start going in the future.
Okay. Do you think Revan would make sense as a movie or like a show if they did Revan?
I don't know. I
And
really don't know.
is Keanu Reeves Revan?
That seems what everybody wants. And hey, everybody wanted Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka, and that happened.
Did they?
So
Did they?
yeah, yes,
Oh, okay.
that was
I didn't know that.
that was petitioned
I
hard
mean, I'm
by
happy.
fans.
I'm happy with it. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's great.
I think Keanu would be great for it. Why not? I love Keanu. Who doesn't love Keanu, right?
So, what do you think,
But
movie or show? It
I'm
feels
more of a fan of
like almost.
shows.
I
I
was gonna
like
say it feels
shows.
like they've taken a step back. Well, maybe since the sequels, obviously, they've kind of put their eggs in the show basket, and I would think. I mean, it's paid off to me, but
The
we haven't heard a
way
lot about movies
the way
in
the
a little while.
media is today, and I think the way we consume media, especially if the Marvel universe tells us anything, I think shows provide better opportunities for in-depth storytelling because they don't have to rush through 2-3 hours. So I feel like there's a big opportunity to really give us the ins and out of characters, whereas a culmination of all that storytelling, like an Avengers movie, is the next step. So it's like build up, big extravaganza with an Avengers type movie, more build up with shows. That seems to be a very orderly and efficient way of telling these stories.
And so let's just use that Marvel example. Have you consumed all the shows that kind
Yes.
of go along with the movies? You have. Okay.
The only
Well, I
one I
have
haven't
not.
watched is Miss Marvel. And
Okay.
for no
Yeah.
particular reason, I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
So as a casual Marvel fan, like I'll admit, okay, don't hate me in the comments or anything. I am more of a DC
Hate him.
guy myself. So I'm more of like a casual Marvel guy. So I really mainly just watch the movies. Like I'm not into watching all the shows. So am I like missing out on a lot by not watching the shows? And do you think
Yeah.
Star Wars is missing a lot of people by really heavy focusing on shows right now instead of putting out big movies?
I mean, that's the conundrum, right? Like, how do you appease those parts of the fandom? And I think if it wasn't making them money, they wouldn't be doing the shows. So I don't think it's
Sure,
hurting them.
sure. Okay.
Clearly, I think fans are eating this up. So
Yeah.
it's a good way of doing things. But for your question specifically, you are going to miss some stuff. Yeah. And hopefully maybe the movies do a good job of sort of, I don't know, condensing a lot of that and just bringing it to light, which I think they have for the most part, but you are missing good pieces of storytelling in my
I think
opinion.
the only one I watched was I think Loki. For some
Okay.
reason that just seemed interesting to me.
It was good.
But like I didn't do any of the was it like I don't even know. The guy
Hawkeye
who shoots
was
the bow
not
and
as
arrow.
bad as I thought it was going to be. I
Okay.
actually enjoyed
Okay.
it. I thought Falcon and Winter Soldier was great. Again, though, like I said, these are setups for the movies coming.
Yeah. Okay.
Loki was a setup for Kang that's going to be
Yeah.
in this new Ant-Man movie. Hawkeye, I think, just set up some other shows. Winter Soldier and Falcon and Winter Soldier obviously set up Falcon becoming the new Captain America in the next movie. So yeah, you are missing a lot, and you'll see the culmination of it. You'll just be missing the story pieces that really brought it together.
Okay, well, if you just jumped in, guys, we're not a Marvel podcast. Okay, we're
No,
making
not.
the connection to Star Wars doing all these shows, and is there a payoff with the movie? And is there like a connection they're doing like Marvel? And so, if that was kind of a side tangent, but if they go Old Republic era, I can see them doing something with Revan. But then let me run this idea by you. Something I'm really interested in. So obviously there's like thousands of Jedi and thousands of Sith, right?
Yeah.
That are around back then. And in the current movies, that we've seen with the sequels, prequels, there's just a handful. I mean, there's still a lot of Jedi, but there's still nothing compared to then. And so everyone was kind of, to an extent, on the same page and accepted the same teachings. Obviously, Qui-Gon was obviously more gray. We know that. But I want to see even more nuance within the Jedi Order. Like, are there Jedi who kind of stray from the mainstream teachings that aren't necessarily dark side, Jedi? Maybe they could be, but just that have their own interests, or maybe Jedi who are selfish in their gain, kind of like almost Dooku became. You know what I mean? I think there could even be like factions within the Jedi Order that could be fun to explore in the Old Republic. I don't know. This is just like one idea. Like you said, you can go in any direction because you're not tied to
Really,
the
yeah.
Skywalker story anymore.
And I think a lot of us are kind of, as much as we love the Skywalker saga, the capacity that Disney now has to make all this stuff, I think it's time. Like we want this is worth exploring. It's part of the lore. It's time to move away from the Skywalker saga and start telling new stories. And what's cool about Mando is this is the first time well, I, it's weird how my brain automatically discounts the sequels. Like, this is the first time we go past Return of the Jedi when the sequels
Well,
still
in the
exist.
timeline, kind of though, right? Because isn't
Yeah,
he more like right after?
5 years.
Although he's like,
So
what's a Jedi?
I know,
You know.
I know, and people argue
So
about that all the time. Like, how do they not know? Like, how did
right.
Rey not know and stuff? Well, the galaxy's a big place.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're out on the outer rim, it is just stories essentially.
Yeah. Do you think the old Republic era is a place they could explore the origins kind of the Force, or maybe the factions of like Jedi and Sith? I know that's not the starting point necessarily, but is that far back enough where you can kind of maybe dive into some of that? Because I think that's really interesting to me, and
Yeah,
maybe more casual Star Wars fans, like, how did this all start? You know what I mean? I think could be a cool
yeah.
way to go.
Prediction time again.
Okay, I'm writing it down.
The
I mean, I guess we're
the
recording this, so I don't have to write it down.
That's true. The Ahsoka show is going to show us something about the nature of the Force and the world between worlds. It said it. Some leaks have said that they're going to explore kind of other elements of the Force, like the Night Sisters, the magic, I guess. So
That seems to
it,
be controversial, but anyway, go on.
it looks like they're headed down that route of exploring the nature of the Force, and
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is an opportunity for them to start putting out feelers, like, what do fans like? What do they want to see?
Yeah.
And I personally, as a huge fan, as big of a fan that I am, I would love to see that. They've even
Hmm.
explored some of that in the Clone Wars in some of the episodes. So there, like I said, there's just a fountain of lore and opportunity there. And honestly, I don't care where they would start in the timeline. And if
Hmm.
they want to go as back as 4,000 years to the very beginning of the Sith, the Dark Jedi who left the Order, landing on Korriban, and kind of interbreeding with the Sith species, like, I'd watch that. I'd honestly pick up anywhere. Flashbacks are a tool. It's
Yeah.
it's really limitless. So, yeah,
Hmm.
anything, man.
Yeah. Well, what do you guys want? Do you guys want to see a return to, or do you want to see them explore the old Republic era? Do you have some specific stories you want to see? Let us know in the comments or in the chat what era you're looking forward to. I know, what is it? One of the games is going to be set in the High Republic era that's supposedly coming out soon. Was that the
That's
Eclipse
quite a
game?
way.
Star Wars
Yeah,
Eclipse?
that's a ways out, though.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
why don't we talk about
unfortunately.
that? Let's kind of our
Or don't
next
we?
thing on the list is we wanted to talk about the state of games in Star Wars, and I
Mm.
think they are trying to explore some other eras. We do have an Old Republic game, so let's switch over and take a look. All right, Scott. So,
Cal Kestis.
what's your history with Star Wars games before we get into kind of what the state is right now? That, are you a fan
Wow.
of just the movies, the shows, or has gaming played an integral role, maybe even more than the shows and movies for you
Everything,
as a
man.
fan?
I've lived and breathed Star Wars since I was a young kid. It's brought me so much joy. It's gotten me through difficult times in my life when I was really down. It was just such a big part of who I was. It made me happy. It relieved anxiety. It was just introduced me to the wonderful world of storytelling, and essentially the Jedi sparked my love for philosophy. It's why philosophy is one of the degrees I got in college, because I just loved it. And so I consumed all sorts of Star Wars, anything and everything, books, games. I played the original Nintendo game Star Wars. I remember playing the arcade games. Uh, the very first one was, I think, on the console was no Jedi Outcast. Oh, sorry. When I had my first PC, I played the TIE Fighters, the
Okay.
X-wing, the Dark Forces, and then on the N64 there was Jedi Outcast, and then Jedi Academy, and then came, I believe in 2003 came KOTOR, and then from there,
Okay.
man, I've played every single Star Wars game. The only one I probably haven't played, that sounds weird after I just said I've played every single one, was the newest dogfighting one, the where it's just like the spaceships. I guess I forget
Yeah.
the name. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
only one I
No.
haven't played.
Okay. Gotcha. And are you planning on playing that, or you're not? Nah, not worried about it now.
Nah, I probably won't play that.
Okay.
Just kind of not my jam anymore.
And obviously, you were a big Star Wars Galaxies player, right?
Ugh, the
Back in the day.
best
Was that your favorite
experience.
Star Wars game?
The game itself, probably not. The
Okay.
experience, yes. Those are some of my best memories.
Was that your
Playing.
first MMO that you played too? Because that will
Yes.
probably,
Yeah, it was.
I can see where having that, your first MMO experience is always special, right?
Yeah.
And so to have it be Star Wars, I really sad I missed out on that.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
you
looking
know,
back now, that game had a lot of
the game's
issues.
kind of rough. Yeah,
Yeah, but man, for the time, just hopping in Ventrilo
yeah.
and just wow. Yeah,
Was that
amazing game.
is that the golden era for you of Star Wars games that around there, like
Oh
Galaxies, or
yeah.
maybe before that, even with consoles?
KOTOR and Galaxies was the golden era for me.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, obviously that was really awesome, and then you had kind of, I don't want to say a dark time, if that's the golden age,
Of all the
but
dark times.
for the Empire. Obviously, EA obtained the exclusive license at some point, right? And so I don't know exactly when that happened. Was that right at the time when they started developing Star Wars: The Old Republic?
I believe so.
It had to have been, right? Because Star Wars
Yeah,
Galaxies, I believe, was with Sony,
it was.
if I'm
Yeah.
remembering right. And that shut down the day Star Wars: The Old, Galaxy shut down the day
Right.
Star Wars: The Old Republic launched. And
Right.
so that was obviously my first MMO was Star Wars: The Old Republic. I kind of missed out on PC gaming. I was more of a console guy, like through college and right after that.
Yeah.
And I was more of like Halo, kind of that side of
Madden,
gaming.
FIFA.
Yeah, like sports games, Halo, all that kind of stuff. But when I saw that I could play as a double-bladed wielding, Jedi, I was like, okay, I got to do this. I got to buy a gaming PC. I was all in. I was like, man, I love
Right.
Star Wars. I got to go there. So
Right.
that was awesome. But at the same time, what happened is EA took over. And so I think people were looking for, like, hey, we want a new KOTOR or a new something else. And it just never came. There was the big rumored game that Amy Hennig was developing. They even showed a trailer like years ago where it had like the Jedi and like I can't remember if it was like an elevator shaft or something where this deal was falling and they're trying to, but it was like a single player
They
Star
did that
Wars
with
game.
Star Wars 13 too.
Yeah, is that the one that got canceled? I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
that was it.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, you're right.
I think that was at the time where EA was transitioning to like the loot box method, right? And FIFA Ultimate Team was taking over, and they were just like, we can't monetize a single player game with loot boxes, so we're canceling this kind of a thing. And so they really, I feel like, suppressed Star Wars single player or just open world games for a number of years. And I feel like that's I don't know, that was a bad time. And now EA no longer has the exclusive license, right? So we have rumors of games that are coming out. Although I don't want to totally trash EA because I think the revival of Star Wars games kind of happened with, I think, one of your favorite games, Jedi Fallen Order,
Yep.
right? What was
Respawn.
your experience with that game? Yeah, when it came out, and what did you feel? Were you like, this is a return to form for Star Wars games, kind of a thing?
That game was great. Yeah, for a first iteration of it, it was like, and I'm not even a fan of Dark Souls. Not because of the gameplay necessarily. It's something about the aesthetic. I don't know. It doesn't vibe with me so much. But that aside, it has Dark Souls elements, and it felt like it was a marriage between Dark Souls and those Jedi Outcast games. that I mentioned.
The ones with Kyle Katarn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So it felt like I had the best of both worlds when it came to that. It was a
Mm.
shorter game. It was pretty linear. I'm I'm more biased towards the more open world, larger
Okay.
games.
Okay.
But that being said, storytelling was great. The mocap and acting was great,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought it was a poignant story to put in the timeline of what we're exploring and the origins of the Empire, the defeat of the Jedi, the survivors of it that managed to escape Order 66. So all those things put together, absolutely love the game.
And this is what really cool about the revival with Jedi Fallen Order, right? Is because it was so story driven, it actually intertwines with the lore of the movies and shows, right? Because it's going on, like you said, during Order 66 in this time frame. And so you get a character, Cal Kestis, right? Who now I think we're all expecting, plus they cast a well-known actor to do
Yep.
this. And so your mind is spinning like, okay, this guy is going to show up now. They're intertwining the games with the shows and movies. Like, this is an amazing way to do the video games and to kind of intertwine the web of all your Star Wars media, because
Yep.
I think your Cal is probably, again, since you like this game so much, he's one of your favorite Star Wars characters, period, right? Like,
I,
even
I don't know if
movies
he's
or whatever.
one of my favorite. I just think
Okay.
he's well done and he has a lot of potential. And
Mm,
I like Cameron Monaghan. I think he just slayed the role, and I think he's a good
okay.
actor all around. And I it was intentional that they cast him and just did the likeness of him and all the characters,
Hmm.
because I feel that
He's a good actor.
we're gonna see a merge of all Star Wars media.
Where
Like
do
they
you
are
think
telling
he's
a
going to
large
show
story.
up
I think
in
he's
the
gonna show up
media?
in Ahsoka.
Do you?
I expect to see him and Ezra in Ahsoka. Ezra for sure in season 1, and I think Cal might be later on, but I
So
would fully
you,
expect him to show up.
so do you kind of want a meeting of all the, I'll just throw it out there, Jedi survivors? Is that what you're
Oh, I see what you did
speaking
there.
speaking of the next game that they're coming out with, Jedi Survivor? Do you
Yeah,
think that's the hope, is that they're, hey, the people who are left over who survived Order 66, are they
yeah.
getting together? Is that the plan?
That I don't know. I can't answer.
Hmm.
I think they will show up in one form or another. Whether
Okay.
it's all together, I don't know. It's hard to speculate. But
Does Cal make his way to Luke's new academy and like try to help him build
possible.
it? You know
It's
what I mean?
possible. Yeah.
Kind
I
of a
mean,
thing.
the whole question that arises though is where were all these people during the OT? So
Stop it.
explanation,
Stop it.
remake. I don't know.
The OT is perfect. How
Uh,
dare you? Um, there are a lot of questions about that. Obviously, Ahsoka is raising a lot of questions. Where was she? They've done a tasteful job of showing
yep.
Ahsoka during that timeline with the ending of the Clone Wars, obviously.
Mhm.
But you're right. I think Jedi Survivor is going to be huge.
It
Um,
is
when is that coming out?
March
And do you
10th.
have it pre-ordered?
Of course. What kind of stupid question is that? Yeah. Yes. And what's funny is that's 3 days before my son gets here, is born.
Oh
So
wow.
I know I'm already like,
Good luck.
oh, I know I'm already
Yeah.
tired. I don't know
Oh
when
man.
I know.
Well, that's the beauty of the single player game. You can play it at your own pace, right? It's not that big
Yeah.
of a deal.
Yep.
Um, the next, yeah, kind of going even further, there was a big speculation about the KOTOR remake that's been going on, and it seems that that's kind of been put on hold.
Hmm.
I don't know all the details. It seems like the company making it just weren't, the leadership wasn't there, and so I think a lot of people were excited for a KOTOR remake, up to date graphics. I don't
Yeah.
know if it was in Unreal 5 or not, but I mean, I
It
think that
also
would be huge as well.
wasn't turn based either.
Right, right.
Which I don't like
Would be
turn-based.
amazing.
The only reason I played it is because it was a Star Wars game back in 20 years ago.
Yeah,
But
turn-based sucks. Shout out,
it do-
Mikey.
it does, and Rob. Screw
Yeah.
you guys.
So anyway, but KOTOR remake would take us back to the Old Republic. So this is the last thing I want to kind of get into before we jump off today. There's a game out there that is in the Old Republic era that is available right now for free that I
Subtle.
think people are sleeping on, and that is Star Wars: The Old Republic. Okay, this game I know is about what, 11 years old, something like that, maybe almost 12 at this point.
Almost 12, yeah.
But this is a game, if you like KOTOR, this is made by BioWare. You have the same type of storytelling with decision making and dialogue trees, where you can, it's companion heavy. You know what I mean? You have stories with every companion you have, and it's just more Star Wars storytelling that is amazing. I think
It is. It's like a KOTOR 3 Lite. That's kind of how I look at it.
it is. It is like a. I don't think you have to be. It is an MMO, but I don't think you have to be an MMO player
You don't.
to enjoy this game. You can almost treat it as like a single player RPG if you really want to,
Exactly.
with just some multiplayer elements tacked on if you do want to get into that. And so, while I think the future is bright with the announcement of I think the Star Wars Eclipse, which was not a real trailer, let's be honest.
No.
But still, if that game is in the works and the Ubisoft game, the open world game that everybody's saying is like No Man's Sky or whatever, the future seems pretty bright for Star Wars games. But I think in the meantime, Star Wars: The Old Republic, I think, has some of the best stories, especially the initial class stories of any Star Wars media. I think if you want to jump in and play those, in my opinion, I don't know, what is your thoughts on the Old Republic?
Oh, I mean, I still love the game for what it is, right? I played for hours when it first came out, and before I had kids, it still holds up, and especially if you're a new player, I think it's far more accessible. It is not nearly as time consuming as it used to be. If you legit just want to get more Star Wars story and just take some of your gaming time to feel like you're in the Star Wars universe and just play on your own, like you said, you absolutely can. And each individual story is good on its own. So even for a single playthrough, for a free game, you really can't go wrong. And then if you decide
there's hundreds of hours, right?
Yeah,
If you just
the
want to jump
stories.
in for free and just do the stories, 100%.
For people
So-
like us who have been through the game extensively, it doesn't hold as much content as we'd like to justify putting the time in. So for people like us, maybe not so much, but for just a casual player that wants more Star Wars content, absolutely. I have nothing against the game at all. It still holds up. It has its flaws, sure, but it's not a bad game.
Yeah. So I don't know. I would encourage y'all. Obviously, this isn't sponsored. I'm just saying, if you're waiting for some of
We're
these
being honest.
these great Star Wars games to come out, there is, like you said, Scott said, the dogfighting game is out there. I'm sure some people still play Battlefront, the shooter. But
Which
Star
is
Wars:
still
Old
pretty fun.
Republic is a great option, and if you want some awesome story in the vein of KOTOR, don't expect it to be a KOTOR 3, or whatever, but I think it'll scratch that itch for you, and it's pretty good. So I don't know. Let's keep our eyes on Jedi Survivor, obviously March 10th, like you said, and then the Ubisoft game I think is next up, and I'm more excited about that one because I was a fan of the original Assassin's Creed games, and so if it has an open world feel like that, I think it could be cool. I hope it's co-op because I think that would be cooler. Like if we could jump in together,
Yeah.
and do some stuff.
Yeah.
But so I don't know, man. I think now that EA doesn't have the license, the future is looking much brighter, and I think we're going to see a lot more stuff coming out. And I don't know, man. I'm pretty excited about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't go wrong with the games that are just right on the horizon, and SWTOR that's out right now. I just hope that this trajectory keeps coming, keeps going the way it needs to go. And I mean, for all types of players, I would love to have another. And I mean, the remake itself, that was on my radar big time, so I was a little disappointed by that. But to have an open world game like Ubisoft is talking about, where you can travel throughout the galaxy, like, man, and even just be like a moisture farmer, like, how cool is that? Like, seriously.
Gonna farm moisture.
Yeah, I don't know, whatever they farm, man. Tatooine's a barren
I'm just
planet,
kidding.
all right? But the
Yeah,
fact
well,
that you can do those things is
yeah,
awesome.
I agree, man. I'm looking forward to the Ubisoft game for sure and some stuff going on. But until then, I'll be playing Old Republic. So, speaking of that, actually, live stream most Fridays. I'm trying to extend it to other ones, and that's on our other channel, which is our gaming channel. Which, if you just search at BadCuzDad on YouTube, you'll find it. I mean, we do a little bit of streaming. We put philosophy videos out on video games. I cover a lot of MMOs. Scott covers, a lot of RPGs and single player games. Like, I know he's super excited for Survivor and Hogwarts Legacy that's coming out. If any of you guys are Harry Potter fans out there. And so, yeah, go check out our gaming channel if you want some more gaming content from us, because that was really kind of our origin and where we started.
Yeah.
Before we jumped on this channel and got going on Star Wars stuff. But we cover lots of Star Wars stuff on that channel, so go check it out.
And check out your guide coming out soon.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. We'll just wrap it up with make full circle. I'm excited for the next episode of Bad Batch. I've been really happy with how they've kind of yo-yoed to this emotional episode, back to this fun episode. And so I'm interested to see where they go next week and how it progresses. What did we get, like 12 episodes the first season?
I don't know. Off the top
So
of my
I
head.
think so. So we got quite a bit of character development still to go. And so I'm excited about that. Looking forward to that. And if you haven't seen it, go check out Scott's breakdown he did of last week's episode. We'll have another one out on Wednesday.
Hopefully earlier. I want to get that out right away.
Yeah, we got some stiff competition there. People staying up at like midnight getting out, their breakdowns and stuff like that. But we got kids, we can't do that.
No. No.
But anyway, I just want to say thank you everyone for joining us today.
Indeed.
Man, we love coming on here, two old dads talking about Star Wars, just having fun. This is our creative outlet, something fun to do. And man, if you guys got questions about what we do here or want to continue the conversation about Bad Batch or about especially video games, we're super invested into Star Wars video games. Hit us with a comment. We're here to chat with you guys. But yeah, man, just thank you everyone for showing up. And anything
We'll
else,
see you
Scott?
next week. No.
Yep.
I think that's
All
good.
right.
We look forward to seeing you next week, guys.
All right, we'll see you guys. Take care.
Thank you for watching.
Later.
Later.